Watch this video before you ever even think about signing a new construction contract. We have been sharing with our clients for the past 2 decades about what to do when they're buying a new construction house. And you might think, oh, you know what? It's no big deal. I'm buying directly from the builder. I'm going to get a better deal. It's just going to be easy. It's the easy button. Well, let me tell you something. Not a week goes by that someone doesn't call us and go, hey, I need to talk. I think I've made a mistake. I bought a house. I don't have representation, and I'm really not sure what to do. Can you help me? That's why we're bringing you this video. So we're going to get right into it and start talking about the things that you need to be worried about when you're buying new construction. And don't forget, safety first. Thrilled to get into this. And one of the first myths around buying new construction is that you can save money by not having a buyer's agent with you. Now, this is a huge myth because actually the builders want to have a agent that's experienced with new construction with them. And I'll tell you why. Sure, you're going, wait a minute. First things first, an agent's telling us to go get an agent, duh. But actually, there's so many different nuances, and you're going to see in all the strategies and tactics that we're going to share with you why it matters to have a buyer's agent who has enough experience in new construction and has done it successfully. So, first things first, make sure your agent that you're going to hire as a buyer's agent has experience in new construction. There's all types of new construction houses. There's track construction, there's semi-custom, there's full custom, there's even spec choices. So all of those different types of new construction have different opportunities and have different challenges that can make or break the transaction and the experience overall. So first things first, make sure the agent that you hire and partner with is going to do that. So ask them, how many years have you been in the business? How much of your business is tied to new construction? How many have you done successfully? What challenges came up in your most recent experience? And find out, kind of hear some of the stories, because that can help you find out which ones you want to be in business with. If you're not in the Middle Tennessee area and you're watching this and would love an introduction to an agent that we know that's in our network that is experienced, we'd be happy to make that connection too. And that is the easy button because it's folks that we've connected with and certainly know how to take great care of you and protect you. And again, the builders and the builders agents want their customers to have someone guiding and helping them and being an advocate for them. The next tip is schedule your visit in person and make sure your representative goes with you. When you've done some of your previewing and you've done and selected your buyer's agent, it's really important that your first visit, you either tell the builder and their representative that you do have an agent that you're working with, or make sure you go with them and schedule time. Of course, professional agents are going to make time, have an appointment, and be there with you, especially when you found the subdivision or area or model that you want to take a deeper dive into. Okay, next is ask questions. Ask a bunch of questions in the appointment. When you've scheduled that appointment, you want to start asking great questions. What's the price? Depending on the different models, they may have different pricing on each different one, on the different elevations, which is the way the front of the house looks like, what lots are available, what lot premiums are out there. And that's another thing that can be a huge surprise. We've actually been out and about with clients and on the market, and we were like, man, that's the one. And not realizing that a lot could actually be tens of thousands of dollars more and may or may not fit the model that you want or are considering that brought you to the neighborhood to begin with. So that's one of the things that can cause a problem and a bump in the road right out of the gate before you ever even get started building. You may ask the builder and their representatives, what's your build timeline? That's important because you've got to match that with your lease or your prior move or your relocation department and the timing that you need. You've got to talk about your family's need. That's one of the things that we as a buyer's agent have experience on helping solve that problem, how to do it, who to reach out to, and how to get the kids in school and make this a great new launch and landing for this new house. And potentially new schools if you're moving from across the country or from a different county. All right, now we want to talk about what incentives are being offered from the builder at this time. Now, actually, throughout the year, builders will have different incentives and programs and opportunities going on. And in this moment, actually, you want to find out what are your current incentives. And incentives can be a whole bunch of different things. It can be paying for all your closing costs. Now, this is a new house, so there are closing costs associated around building the house and moving into this new subdivision and funding the HOA. We can see as much as 3 to 6% in closing costs paid on behalf of the buyer by the builder just to get everything going. If you're in a big subdivision where there's 1,500 homes, there's probably an HOA startup fee, a capital contribution to the HOA, some initial fees around launching some of the amenities to help offset some of that cost. All of that can be part of this process. We want to ask what incentives are being offered right now. Sometimes in certain markets, builders will offer to pay title. That's that multiple thousands of dollars expense. And if the builder isn't paying it, which it's not always paid for in new construction, then you got to know if it can be paid for, if it can be included in closing costs. Who's paying for title? We often get title paid for by the builder for our clients by simply asking. So you do want a good partnership, and they're not out there to take advantage of you, but you do want to make sure that you're being strategic and asking incentives. Many times you'll have a vendor incentive. So what's that mean? You may have a vendor who's saying, hey, we really want to get this builder's business. So right now there's an appliance incentive that at least in our area, it's uncommon for the washer, dryer, and refrigerator to be included in this original sale of one of the appliances. So there may be an incentive going on at that time where you can actually go through and go, hey, yep, they're doing a bulk order situation, and we can go ahead and get those two things. So all of your appliances are all brand new and match. So that's an option. You may have a lender incentive. You might be a lending partner that's partnered with the builder to handle some of these expenses, title and closing costs and things like that. There may be a title vendor partner that the builder's in business with that'll give you an incentive to have that title paid for. And the title companies and the lenders do this, to partner with the builder. One, they get the volume and they get the first introduction to a client like you. But at the same time, if it's a 1,500 home neighborhood, then they're going to get at least 1,500 opportunities, probably more. And, that may or may not end up in that neighborhood because of the different programs and incentives that they're offering at that time. Hey, I hope you're getting value out of watching our playlist. If we're meeting for the first time, my name's Alex Brandaw, and I'm in Nashville, and I'm your friend in real estate in Nashville. And I love bringing videos just like this, where we've been sharing some of our tactics and strategies with our clients, where we've been doing business in Middle Tennessee for over 2 decades and over 1,100 families served. So thanks for joining us. We want to keep giving great content like this. Let us know in the comments below what you've liked so far. But right now, let's get back into the video. Okay, next, let's talk about design credits. Now, this is a really interesting part and a very unique part of the process when you're buying new construction is going through and talking about all the different upgrades. Now, when you show up, you can actually find pricing. You'll see the signs and the billboards, this is strawberry farms, homes starting, from the 6 to 800s, and you'll see that. And the reality is every single house in there is a different price, and every single house in there has something different. There's very, very few that are situations that are just, 3 or 4 options and that's it, right? Pick A or B or C. That almost doesn't ever happen anymore. And you'll actually find that going through and talking about these design credits, the restrictions that builders will put in their subdivisions will matter which lot you end up on. So let's jump into that. First things first, you ask them, right? Hey, how much design credit do I have? Or how much do I have as far as upgrades? What's the standard? And then you'll find that often they'll throw some things in. You might automatically get upgraded just by asking because they've discovered, hey, installing their original standard cabinets is actually more expensive and they're becoming a warranty issue. And so as a convenience and as an upgrade, they're going to upgrade you to the ones that are a little bit easier to install and are going to have a longer life. The builders want to do that. You may or may not know that a builder has to warranty the product that they put in, not only the actual cosmetic stuff for up to a year, at least in Middle Tennessee, but also they have to guarantee and warranty the structural components of the house for 10 years after they build it. So that's one of the things that we love sharing and often do share is why would a builder do that? Why would they upgrade us to different cabinets? Well, if the cabinets are falling off the wall because the back of the cabinet bracket isn't installed right and they're having to come back and take it out and change it out, it's costing them more money. It's easier for them to just put in a better product that's built more properly and have less warranty claims over time than it is for them to keep installing that lower grade product. So find out how that works. Again, find out how the upgrade process goes. You may decide not to do all the hinges and pulls that you thought you wanted and do that after the fact. That's actually one of the easiest upgrades to do on your own or when you already own the house. But our advice that we have people when we go through the process is just build it out. Don't worry about the price, build it all the way out. And then let's look at what we should or shouldn't do. Recently, we had a client that was a previous client that was in business with us again and moving locally, but moving into a different market. And one of the first things they said was, oh, okay, let's talk about flooring. I want hardwoods everywhere. And that was a $30,000 to $40,000 upgrade on the house just for the floors alone. That's not talking about a lot premium or an elevation premium or anything like that. And so we actually started sharing with the client, hey, this market, you don't have to have hardwood floors. Where the market that he'd been in was everything was hardwood, right? It was an older part of town and, had all of the floors upstairs and downstairs everywhere were hardwoods. And so that was an interesting part of the process. Well, we ended up saving them a bunch of money. They ended up putting hardwoods on the lower floors and not on the upper two floors. And they did carpet, which was more the market, and it allowed them to have some money to put in to other upgrades throughout the house and design center incentives. Okay, our next tactic when you're thinking about buying new construction, and this one's not offered or talked about very much at all, especially when a buyer's agent isn't involved that's specifically a specialist around new construction, and this is inspections. Now, most consumers go, oh, I'm working with the builder, they're building my house, no problem, and they just go straight to work. Well, actually, having done this hundreds of times with hundreds of clients, there's an enormous amount of things that can and do go wrong in new construction. This is a new house. And so it has new life that hasn't lived through the seasons. And it has tons and tons of people and different vendors coming in and out of the house that may actually undo someone else's good craftsmanship. So let's talk about this. When you're in this process and going towards signing the agreement, you need to ask your buyer's agent to talk with the builder about, hey, when can we do inspections? When should we do inspections? And are we allowed to do inspections? Many builders may not allow you to do an inspection until the home is all the way complete. And that's fine, but it does cover things up and you just don't know where everything is. There's a lot of different times and a lot of different home inspectors that'll actually do a multi-step inspection, a framing inspection and an electrical inspection, which is easier for them to do when the house is not all the way finished, when the drywall isn't up and the insulation isn't in, and things like this. We had a client recently call us who had been a previous client of ours. We had helped find their other house and they just caught up in the moment, found a house, were under contract and had been for several months, but then called us and we're going, hey, we really need your help. We've got a couple of things that have come up and I'm not sure we're getting good counsel from the builder or the builder's agent about how to solve things. Believe it or not, their brand new house had an environmental issue. It had mold in the crawl space. And you go, oh my gosh, how could that happen? Well, actually, what had happened is this was a new subdivision. It was a new neighborhood with new different drainage and life happening. And it actually wasn't properly ventilated and it didn't have proper drainage on the outside. So it was holding water on the inside and the crawl space wasn't ventilated properly. So they had two issues. Number one, it was causing that. So they had to clean it up. How do we clean that up in our brand new house that we haven't even lived in? And is that even going to be safe? And number two, how do we avoid it in the future? So we got involved and helped them go through that process and figure out what the right building standard was. And we actually got an inspector involved. And that is when they discovered their third thing that most people don't think or realize can happen, which is what happens when you first start with the house. You start with the foundation and then you frame the house. That's the wood structure around it. And then you put the siding on it and then the insulation and the electrical and all the things like this. Well, there's a process. Well, when you put the framing on first, if a board is in the way for one of the vendors in the future, an electrician or an insulation person or a plumber, or maybe even a central heat and air person, and they need to get their fixture into the house and into the right place, well, they change the structure, right? They cut the roof joist. Sometimes we even see them cut the side sills into the house that changes the structural integrity of that building material and can cause a huge problem if you don't catch it in the beginning. It's totally fixable. Just about everything in a house is fixable. It's just a matter of, did we catch it and do we go ahead and take care of it now, as opposed to letting it be a problem later. So always make sure that you talk about when can we do inspections, making sure you have the opportunity to document where everything is, where the plumbing lines are. The framing walk is a perfect time to take a nice video of that. That'll be a huge asset for you, in the future. But find out about when and how you could do the inspections. It's a great value for our clients because they spend a little bit of money to get some things fixed and in tip-top shape in order for their ownership of the house. If a floor joist has been cut, they can go back through and re-support that. Make sure you get a home inspection on your next new construction house. Next, how many walkthroughs do we get? When do we do walkthroughs? Do we do a framing walk? Do we do a drywall walk? We do an electrical walk, a low voltage walk? When do we get to go through and start doing some walks here? That's when you're going to start to really feel and see the space. Only 7% of the population in the United States can actually visualize things off of blueprints, right? And you may be in a position where you haven't ever actually physically walked to the space. And that's when you really start to get ownership of it and really feel, make sure that it really feels like your home. Okay, now we're up to signing the agreement. And now we're here. We've picked out our house. We've discussed the lot premiums. We know which incentives. We're really starting to put down roots and really know where we want to be, and that this is really becoming not just a house, but your home. So, a couple questions that come up pretty often right here. When will my home deliver? This is commonly overlooked in the conversation. When will it deliver? So, in a spec home or in a tract neighborhood, that could be as much as 6 to 8 months. On a semi-custom, it could be 8 to 12 months. And on a custom, it could be 18 to 24 months in the process, if not longer, depending on different micro neighborhoods and local restrictions. So you want to know, when is this house going to deliver, and how many homes are you currently delivering? Ask the builder, are you delivering on time, or are you usually on the longer end there? Like, what's really happening? What can we really expect? Critical thing, because if you have another house to sell, that's super important. We're going to have to time that, right, to sell the other house in order to move to the next one. Now, most of our clients, when they're in the position to do it, they want to go ahead and move one time. So they want to go ahead, make that move into the new house, and then set their former house ready for resale so it can show as much as possible. If you want to see some of our videos about how to prep your home for selling, we've got a ton to share in that playlist about what you shouldn't fix when you're selling your home, what you should fix, how to stage your house. We've got some great videos there. So if you want to see those, check out that playlist. But asking about when your house is actually going to close and what happens if they miss their closing timeline is a very important planning part of your timeline for this new construction house. When's my first payment due? Now, that's an interesting question around when you close, right? When you've looked at those timelines, you've got to manage and plan and budget for having the different houses, moving expenses, but when's the first payment due? This is a great one we love sharing. Actually, when you go through, your first payment is usually not till the following month. Now, that can be some closing costs that the builder paid for. It's part of the closing costs. And one of the other myths that happens in closing around new construction and in all homes actually is that it's better to close at the end of the month. Now, this is one of my favorite secret tactics that I'm only sharing with you. So listen to this one. The fact you've made it this far, you deserve an extra prize in this video. And that's just not true. It does cost a little bit more money. You do pay a little bit more interest, but we actually target our clients closing between the 15th and the 25th of the month to get out in front of all of the volume that shows up at the end of the month. A closing company, a title company, and lenders all back up at the end of the month. They could have huge volume. They could have as many as 30, 40, even 50 closings on one day. And they could have several days of those back to back. I know one title company in particular has done 300 closings in the final 3 days of the month. So we actually, on purpose, plan our clients to get out in front. And the 15th to the 20th, they may only have two or three closings each one of those days. And that's a huge asset and a huge benefit and makes the process so much better for our clients by actually going through, getting way out in front of that, getting more attention from all the vendors involved. And in the event something does come up, we've got time and place to recover. So that's a huge asset for our clients as well. Next, once I sign, can I make changes? Well, it depends, right? You just don't know. That's why we've talked about those different incentives and the walkthroughs and the strategy. But this is a key point to make sure, okay, I know at this walkthrough I can do this much change, or I have this much in credit at the design center as an incentive. These are the key points when you're getting ready to sign. Make sure that you're framing all of the details, all of the incentives, and you know the rules of engagement going forward. When is the earnest money due? Now, this is a great question, and different builders have different standards on how much earnest money and do you pay for upgrades as you go. I would expect to find most builders are looking for somewhere between 5 and 10% of earnest money of the total purchase price. So they want that usually due at signing. There are unique situations where you can work out a payment plan with them where you're going to do it over time and add to it as you go, maybe $5,000 a month for the next 3 months as we build. We've done things like that. But they're going to ask you on the front end. The builder and the builder's rep are going to go, nope, 5% upfront, no matter what. Well, that's when you're professional with experience in and around the industry. We know that people do that all the time and spread that cash flow out over several months. And so this is another key tactic that we use with our clients and that you should be using, just going, hey, what are our options? What can we do here? Would it be all right if we broke it into 4 payments? If you're doing $40,000 down, can we do $10,000 a month all the way across? Typically, that's acceptable to builders because there's not an enormous amount of, expense or changes that are going to happen there. And while we're talking about changes, some builders will require, if you do upgrades beyond what they're going to do, they're going to want you to make that additional deposit for those upgrades. So in the event you don't close over the next 9 or 10 months, that those upgrades that the builder wasn't going to choose are already paid for. And so that's something to look for and find out how that's going to work. Do you require an upgrade down payment as well in that additional earnest money? So great questions to be asking. Is it due now? And also, what happens with upgrades? Do we do that with the change orders as we go? Okay, next, before signing, we get asked, when does my loan get locked? Now, this is a great question, right? As we've discussed, your build time could be, you may buy a new construction house, close and move into it in less than 30 days, or it may take almost 30 months to go through to close on your next new construction. So finding out what the lending partners and lending options are, both in your financial professionals as well as your real estate professional and the builder, to find out what building financial products are available. It may be in a situation, as rates have been really volatile in the past few years here, it may be really important to have a loan product that you go ahead and lock up now at a 5.5 or 6% rate, because rates went all the way to 8%. If rates are falling, you may want to game that a little bit, but it can cause problems. And I've seen it several times across my 2 decades of helping new construction. People will go through. We've had a building in a neighborhood that sold out completely in 48 hours. And later, when it came to close 16 months later, almost none of those buyers closed on that property because there wasn't a financial product that now allowed them. The market changed, the rates and terms and timelines all changed, and none of them were now qualified to buy the houses that they committed to. So it was a huge mess. So this is a huge piece to be talking about. Do you want to go ahead and lock in? What's your real timeline and what's your real financial strategy there? So when does my rate lock, which is actually one of the most expensive parts of the process, because you're going to be paying on that for years and years and years on end? And is there prepayment options? But what loan products are out there? Some builders do have long-term rate locks, some brokers, and some private financial institutions have long-term financial and new construction products. So make sure You're taking inventory through all of your professionals in the process to figure out which loan product you want and when the rate does lock. Hey, thanks for joining us. Watch this video before you sign any new construction contract. I hope this has been super helpful. I'm certain there's some tips in here that we've shared that you did not see anywhere else. So do us a favor, drop us a comment below on which one was the most valuable. And listen, if new construction is in your plans for this year, let us know. It would be our honor to help you here in Middle Tennessee. And if you need a help in specific markets across the country or even across the world, we can also make that connection and introduction to you, one of our peers and partners that'll take great care of you and use some of these tips and techniques across the world. Until we connect again, keep on keeping on. My name's Alex, and I'm your friend in real estate in Nashville. See you soon.